So welcome everybody. I might just give it one more minute and see if anybody else wants to join. But in the meantime, if you're more comfortable off video, by all means, stay off video. If you are comfortable on video, we would love to see some faces. It definitely helps with sharing to connect, but do what makes you feel more comfortable. And you'll see Patrick up there in the top left, and you will see Helene coming to us from Bali. Thanks, Helene. Happy morning to you. And it's Thursday morning where she is. So I don't know everybody on here, so that's exciting. So welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Meghan Mann, and I grew up in South Buffalo. And for the last 16 years have pretty much left a little bit of a nomadic life, and recently became a empowerment coach that has been trained in addiction recovery, psychospiritual integration work, as well as integrative nutrition work, and happy to share a call to heal with all of you. I have some gentle notes here because I'm a little bit nervous as this is our first relaunch event. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and look at my pointers so I use our time efficiently. So I've been also practicing mindfulness for the last 5 years and have been the executive director for a mindfulness coach of 36 years, Mitra Manesh, in the last 4 years. So all of this has really shaped my journey and what has led me to these kind of offerings that we're doing today. I'm going to do a little bit of a Zoom etiquette for anybody that's new to Zoom or is not as comfortable on Zoom. I imagine most are after 2020, but just in case you're not, I just want to review a few things so everybody feels comfortable on here. One of them is definitely the most important to me, and that is whatever is asked or shared, if at any point, that it stays in this space. So I really want to create a space where people can show up, learn, grow, and ask questions if they feel called to. And I want to ensure that whatever is asked or shared is stayed inside the space. So that's the number one of this place. If you want to be anonymous, I mentioned this many times in the email, you can switch your name on Zoom. I think you go to preferences, profile, and then you switch your display name. You can do it ahead of time. And it seems like some people have done it, so I think you know what you're doing. And then if you want to turn your video off, I've mentioned that as well. You can always do that by clicking stop video in the bottom left corner. Again, if you find yourself that you're ready to be on camera, we would love it. And if not, if you can just show up without the camera, that's okay too. I do ask that everybody stays for the duration when you join these events. I find it's really important to keep the commitment to ourselves. I understand that some things might come up and that many people have kids and things like this. But if not, then please stay for the duration. It's 75 minutes. Everybody here is volunteering their time. So I think it's just a nice respect for everybody to stay for the duration of it. Especially if you're off camera, then you can just really listen in and there's no pressure there. Stay on mute. So unless you have a question and you're called on, I just ask that everybody keeps their microphones muted. It can be distracting, a lot of background noise or echoes. So don't be hurt if I decide to press mute on your thing. It's just for appreciation for everybody that is speaking. If you do have questions, you can click on reactions in the bottom right-hand corner and click on the raise hand. If you don't see it for any reason, just let me know, but you should see it. And that way, when you raise your hand electronically, I'll call on you and you can ask your question. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. If you want to ask a question anonymously that you don't feel comfortable asking on the camera, you can type it in the chat to me. I'm the only person that will see that, so I won't say your name and I'll just ask your question. So that's always an option in case something pops up, but you don't want to ask it on camera and we are recording. I understand. So just pop it in the chat and I'll answer that question, or somebody will answer that question. So both of our guests today, luckily, are open to questions. If you have any, They both said that they're willing to answer any that come up for you. So again, you could ask it directly to them through your audio video or just audio or in the chat. So I think most people know why I decided to start A Call to Heal. It was called Heal Buffalo. We had a little bit of a name transition, so it's now called A Call to Heal, Healing Buffalo. And I wish it was for a better reason, honestly, but it was really just a moment out of really deep sadness, hearing about another suicide in Buffalo, specifically even South Buffalo, and one of many over the last 6+ years. It feels like it's happening far and few between, more rapidly. Not only suicides, but also addiction struggles, opiate overdoses. Now recently, for those of you that know, there's fentanyl getting into a lot of the drugs, and there's a lot of instant overdoses. So it's really a problem. And I want to create a space that people can just come and learn and grow, ask questions, experience different things that maybe they would have never experienced before, and just learn from each other, really. So I'm alongside of you guys learning here, excited to do the different practices some of our guests are sharing, to hear the different stories from all the different backgrounds and what has worked for them. I personally don't subscribe to any one thing. I believe that there's many different practices and teachings and tools that can work for everybody. So I really am open to constantly learning anything that'll work in my day-to-day life and that I can apply it. I'm open to it, no matter where it comes from. So every guest that comes in here is really just sharing what has worked for them, and I'm open to learning from them, and I hope that you guys can do the same. So our guest today, we have Patrick Reilly coming from Buffalo, and Patrick has shared with me that he is a father, a husband, and an alcoholic. And he has been in active recovery and really living his purpose to be in service to humanity, and that's why he's in recovery. So Patrick has come to share very vulnerably his story with everybody. And so I just want to welcome Patrick.
Thank you, Megan. I'm really excited to be here. I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you for the work that you're doing. It's a beautiful thing, and we need more of it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you. And we're also joined today by Helene Sandi. Helene is a yoga teacher, a empowerment women's coach, and a lifestyle mentor. I've known Helene for 15 years, and we have had parallel journeys. I don't know what you want to call it, wellness, healing, self-development, spiritual, but it's very interesting because we've been on this kind of parallel path together, doing different things. This is a good point to say, like, what works for me doesn't work for you. We're into some of similar things, but many different things, but very parallel in our path. And a little side note that we actually met in the underground rave scene, and if you know anything about raves, it's quite the opposite of wellness. So it's been really amazing to kind of watch our paths, and really an honor to watch Helene's journey as she's developed over the years and heal and transform into an amazing teacher. So thank you, Helene, for coming to us from Bali, again, a Thursday morning there, very early. So welcome, Helene.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And, you know, it's also been such an honor to watch your journey. And it's been really beautiful, exactly how we've gone these parallel ways. And yeah, I just fully believe in the possibility of healing ourselves and transformation at any stage in life. It's possible.
Yeah, that's a great point, Helene. At any stage in life, my teacher used to always say, every breath is an opportunity for transformation. Like, oh, just messed up, now I can do it better. And so that's really what it's about, just the effort of showing up and working towards bettering ourselves and focusing less about what other people are doing and really bringing the attention back onto ourselves and where we can improve. The more we do that, the less we expect from other people. So yeah, thanks, Helene. So before we have Patrick's story, I just wanted to give a little mention to a topic that I shared in the newsletter some time ago, which was around normals and healthy. It's one of my favorite topics because we have lots in the society around all these normals that, oh, well, they do this, this is so normal, and everybody's doing it, and these kind of statements. And then we surround ourselves with people that are doing the same, so then we feel better about ourselves, and it doesn't, bring a mirror up to like what maybe we need to change or to look at. I mentioned the rave scene. That's a really good example of normals that are very unhealthy. I love dance music. I think there's a lot of beautiful parts about it, but there's also a lot of darkness around it, which is heavy drugs, heavy alcohol, staying up for days at a time, and everybody's doing it, and it's very normal, and nobody questions it. And that's a great example of what is not healthy. And it really leads to a lot of destruction later on. And a lot of suicides have happened even in that scene because of depressions, because of anxieties, because of just kind of loss of control over themselves, really losing themselves. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, just because something is normal and everybody's doing it doesn't mean that it's healthy, or at least healthy or helpful for ourselves. So this space is really a place for you to get to know yourself and to transform, the parts of yourself that maybe you do want to look at and change, and focusing less about what other people are doing and really bringing the attention back to how you're showing up and what choices you're making. And normals can be anything. Normals could be even healthy things like healthy food or healthy exercise, but these can turn into extremes as well, and then you surround yourself doing these extremes. Diet culture is a huge thing. It could be around the news, it could be around TV, it could be around gossip, it could be around shopping, it could be around alcohol, it could be around drugs. Like it's really endless. So it's just really to take a look at ourselves and say, like, where are my normals, these things that I'm doing on autopilot without much thought into it, and it's just because everybody's doing it, to really reflect back and say, like, does that really work for me? Is that healthy for me? And how do I want to show up in my life? And it will be uncomfortable. It's always uncomfortable in the beginning because it's unfamiliar, but the more you kind of work it like a muscle, the more comfortable it gets and the more familiar it gets, and the easier it is to make those decisions. I'm speaking from experience over many years of practicing different things and being uncomfortable and trying and failing and making mistakes. It really does get easier to make the healthier choice over time. So I just want to give you that little bit of hope that if you're starting this journey, and it's not to say you won't face challenges and face yourself, but it will get easier the more you practice these things, and the easier it is to come back into an alignment with who you are and what works for you, the more you actually practice that. And you can start really small. You don't need to start with some big change. You can start with like choosing a different breakfast in the morning, or stretching instead of putting on the news, or there's endless amount of ways that you can do it. You just have to find what works for you and just replace it with a healthier option, whatever that small thing is you want to change, or big thing. Just find something small to replace it with that is healthier for you. So we'll discuss that a lot over these events and bring different people in to kind of debunk these normals and kind of challenge you a little bit in different exercises to get uncomfortable, but just be curious. That's the only invitation I really have for you, is bring some curiosity to this event, explore something maybe you would have never explored. And if judgment comes up, then just note it, why you think maybe you're judging it. Is it because it's making you uncomfortable? Is it because you have to look at something within yourself, and just kind of observing it without getting too attached to the whole thing. So I've talked enough, so I'm going to invite Patrick to share his story with all of us.
Thank you, Meghan.
Before I do that, I just want to see if anybody has any question before we jump into Patrick's story. And if you do, you can raise your hand electronically in the bottom right-hand corner under reactions. And if not, you can type it in the chat. And if not, we can move forward. All right, Patrick, you're up.
Right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us. I want to commend you on your curiosity, because behind that curiosity is some strength, and we can rely on that strength in times of trouble. And again, thank you, Megan, for inviting me to do this. I have written out my story because it's easier for me to organize my thoughts that way. And if you guys will allow, I will read you my story, and please feel free to have any comments or questions again, and send those over to Megan, and then we will address them. But here's my attempt at condensing my story down to about 15 or 20 minutes. All right. Born to an incredibly loving, supportive, spiritual mother and an emotionally unavailable father, I spent my formative years in a cozy suburb of Buffalo, New York. From as far back as I can remember, I never felt like I fit in with my peers. I harbored an inexplicable sadness that seemed quite at odds with the joys, silliness, excitement, and innocent wonder that seemed to fill my classmates. Concurrently, I was labeled as gifted and talented, which meant that I was pulled out of normal class to attend classes with another teacher that were supposed to be enriching. Add this sense of specialness to the emotional isolation I felt at school and at home from my dad, and I started to develop a strong impression that the world owed me something for being so deep and so special. So by fourth grade, the groundwork had been laid for me to develop some of my greatest challenges of self. I felt special and entitled. I sought externally, out in the world, the praise, self-esteem, love, worth, and acknowledgement that I could not cultivate for myself internally. My need for validation was insatiable. My mother provided more than enough for a well-balanced child, but I was not well-balanced. As I aged, the world continued to fail to live up to my expectations of it. My depression deepened, and I discovered a wonderful cure: marijuana. I started smoking at 15 and quickly became a daily user. What wonderful, humorous, social, and effective relief to my suffering. With all the pathology of an immature mind, I saw weed as the missing piece to my personality. I finally felt more like myself when I was high. So I got high as much as I could. Fast forward 10 years, and I had replaced weed with alcohol. Same want, same effect. If I was celebratory, drink. If I was sad, drink. If I was anything, drink. Drinking brought me to a place where I didn't feel like such a failure. Drinking stopped the incessant nagging of my internal critic, until it didn't. I wound up drinking to hide from the world, and I wound up drinking to hide from myself. My life had become unmanageable. The unmanageability crept in at a glacial rate. I didn't notice it until I was being ground to dust under its undeniable weight and presence. My life wasn't turning out like it was supposed to. I hadn't lived up to all the scholastic promise that I had shown. I hadn't really grown up emotionally. I still felt like the world owed me everything, and after decades of being denied the life that I demanded, I had become consumed by resentment. Add that to the ever-present whisperings of self-hatred and crippling insecurity, and I wanted to die. I just wasn't good at life, and I couldn't go on like I was. I couldn't bear it. In actuality, I didn't really want to die, but I definitely didn't want to be me anymore. During this time, I managed to fall into the best love that I was capable of sharing with another human being. It was far from perfect and occasionally unhealthy, but it was as sincere and true as I could be. We were lucky enough to have our first child, and a new hope crept into my life. All through the pregnancy, the excitement of a new life for all of us was exhilarating. Side note, I was still looking at the outside world to fix my internal condition. But this baby would bring purpose and success to my life. I'm going to be the best dad out there, until I wasn't. My wife breastfed our daughter, and a logical and natural bond formed between them. However, the self-centered king baby in my head felt rejected. My daughter didn't want anything to do with me. Now what? This was supposed to fix me. So I withdrew into the bottle. A year and a half later, things had not improved. I was telling myself that I was a failure parenthood, then used that as an excuse to hide in the basement and drink myself to sleep. I resented the baby, and I resented my wife for both rejecting me. While I was hiding in the basement, I loved the reliable, warm, golden embrace of my buzz. I could count on that. Whiskey wouldn't let me down until it did. Eventually, the relief of self that I sought in inebriation wasn't coming to me. The things that I wanted to forget were following me into the bottle, and now there was no off switch. I had to be with me all the time, sober or not. This was not good. The drinking increased until I started hearing a still, small voice somewhere in the cacophony of negativity and hopelessness. Maybe you're an alcoholic. Nope, not me. You got that wrong. I might drink more than the average Joe, but I've got this under control. Under control? Have you stopped drinking? Long, awkward pause. Maybe you're an alcoholic. Love those conversations in my head. I spent months ignoring the still small voice, but it was powerfully persistent. Then one night after a rather festive dinner party at our friend's house, and with a respectable buzz on, the voice came in louder. I didn't want to admit to myself, or especially my wife, that I was an alcoholic. To do so would claim responsibility, and to claim responsibility meant I would have to stop drinking. And certainly I didn't want to do that, ever. I didn't even know who I was if I wasn't a drinker. The prospect was too terrifying, and I tried to deny it, as I had for all those months. But this time was different. Apparently it was time. Sitting in the passenger seat of our car as my wife was driving us home, I felt a physical push from behind me, right between my shoulder blades. An actual physical sensation. What the fuck? Say it. Say it to you and say it to her. Say it. I'm an alcoholic. Tears started streaming down my face as it seemed like my chest was being cracked open from the inside out. I turned to my wife, and with the voice and tongue of someone else, I said, I think I'm an alcoholic. And she said, I know. Well, now what? The cat's out of the bag, and I can't take back those words and shove them back into the throat of the still small voice. When we got home, I did the only thing that I could think of. I called the only alcoholic that I knew who was in AA. I confessed to my friend my condition, and I asked him with vulnerability that I had never really showed myself to please help me. He said, go to a meeting. And the very next night I did. For recovery and me, it was not love at first sight. In fact, after some of the prayers and old war stories about drinking, I walked out of that church basement with the resolve that I would stop drinking on my own. And somehow, I was stubborn enough to stop on my own for 8 years. The thing is, there's a huge divide between being dry and being in recovery. I was what's termed a dry drunk for 8 years and had not changed or grown in any positive sense. In fact, I fell deeper into depression because all my defects of character, all my emotional shortcomings were still there. In fact, they had gotten worse, and I no longer had my medicine to make it all go away. Eventually, with some encouragement from my wife and my close friend Scott, I was forced to admit to myself that once again, my life was unmanageable. Stopping drinking didn't solve anything. I had to reapproach my life or lose it. Scott was 5 years into active recovery with AA, and he suggested that I join him for a meeting. I agreed, and that was the first right decision that I had made in years. 12-step recovery has saved my life. It helped me to pull back the covers on all the ugliness that I cultivated in my mind and heart, and has helped me to set it aside, making room for the inherent good inside of me that I had denied all along. Through rigorous honesty, unflinching vulnerability, acceptance of self and of life, willingness to learn from other people, and replacing specialness with humility, I have been able to rewrite the stories that I had believed all my life. I no longer believe that I'm special in a destructive way. I no longer believe that I'm unworthy of love. I no longer believe that I'm not good enough, that I'm an imposter in someone else's life. I no longer believe that I deserve to fail. I no longer believe that I deserve to suffer. Today, through daily work and while maintaining contact with my higher power as I understand it, I am achieving the life that is promised in my program. I'm not perfect. I never will be, but I am making spiritual and emotional progress toward being a healthier and more balanced human being. I used to take just about every human thought and emotion to an unhealthy extreme. Now I strive for the middle road. I don't have to deny aspects of myself, but I can engage with them in a more peaceful and meaningful way. One of the most meaningful ways is that I have taken the lessons in recovery about being of service and of thinking of others and made a crucial change in my career. I'm a helper now, not a taker. The more I help others, the less I'm in my own head. And honestly, that's best for all of us. My head or ego or alcoholism, it wants to kill me. My heart or my higher power wants me to be grateful, helpful, and humble. Once in that space, the miracles come with much more frequency. If you're struggling with addiction of any sort, please talk to another human being. We can't fix our sick minds with our own sick minds. We need help. And later, when we can, we offer that same help to another struggling human being. Go to a meeting, listen, share, get a sponsor, do the work, and don't pick up. Thank you.
Wow, Patrick, thank you so much for sharing your story. I had tears in my eyes as you were sharing. I was really envisioning the whole journey that you just gave. I would just like to ask how you're feeling right now after sharing that with everybody here.
Oddly excited. I used to be so critical and insecure about what I deemed to be my imperfections that there was no way that I would want to admit them to other people. Oddly, now I love to. There's just, I don't know, there is a peace for me that comes with the honesty and the vulnerability. It almost feels just more in line with my natural state, natural state as a spirit, to not hide, to put myself out there. And if someone can relate, wonderful. And if they can't, that's fine too. May they find someone they can connect with. So
Beautiful.
I'm excited, a little effervescent.
Thank you. I want to ask you, is there, your life, you say you have your family and life, I'm assuming is somewhat the same in terms of day to day. Is there any practices that you've kind of cultivated for your life to help you, whether it's in social gatherings, like you said, these maybe moments that you've always related to alcohol? Is there any tools or practices that you have used that you found helpful to kind of work with those situations?
Definitely. Well, in my daily practice, I utilize a lot of tools that I'm sure that you're familiar with. Yoga, meditation, prayer, gratitude lists. in social settings, when I find myself maybe getting a little anxious, if I find myself um, where there's a lot of drinking going on, um, I can still be tempted by that. For the most part, I have been relieved, thankfully, of that desire, leaving me to work on my character. Um, but for those people that find themselves in situations, particularly social situations, admittedly, I had to circle the wagons in early recovery. I had to really, um, I had to not worry what other people were going to think about me getting sober. I had to focus on that, and that was a great filter. I learned very quickly who the people were that truly loved me, and who were just social enablers. Because a lot of addicts will surround themselves with people that enable them to do what they want to do and call them friends. So I circled the wagons. I kept my family close. I kept a handful of people closer, and I counted on that. And then later on, there are little tricks. If I'm going to go to a function where there's possibility of me being uncomfortable, I may drive separately so I don't have to rely on somebody else to drive me home. I may park in a way where I won't get parked in so that I can leave. Gotten quite comfortable with the quiet exit, because if I have to say goodbye to everybody, I may get pulled into another hour. So sometimes I just disappear, and that's okay. It really is. Sometimes showing up late to things and leaving early. There's just all these little tricks that I learned where I can still be active in a social way, but not to the extent that I used to. I've traded in closing down bars for going to bed at 8:30. And sometimes I get up at a time in the morning when I used to go to bed. And so, in addition to that, I know that you're into health. A good walk with the dog helps clear the mind, and to get some outside time every day. Every day. Those are big helps in my day-to-day practice.
Wow, amazing. It sounds like you really tapped into what your needs were and kind of um, formed it around your life, and that's what I want to encourage everybody to do. Like, find your own ways to, feel more comfortable with the uncomfortable of change. And I like your quiet exits. I'm a big fan of those myself, and the 8:30 club. So, you're not alone there. And I really hope that everybody here that was listening to Patrick's story, a big part of A Call to Heal is to know that we're not alone. Like, these voices in our head, we all have one constantly going. We have to go to bed with it. We have to wake up with it. So learning, as Patrick was saying, how to work with that mind. A lot of times it can be being in a space like this, hearing other people's stories. At any point, we could always relate somebody's story to our own life in some way. So it's really, I think, important to listen to other people's story and then learn some tools and practices to work with this crazy little mind of ours. That likes to comment on everything all the time, and bring in these judgments and these insecurities, and really just to come back and take control over ourselves and say, hey, wait a minute, is that true? Is that really what needs to happen? What feels good for me? And cultivate this practice of coming back and asking ourselves, like, does this work for me? So it sounds like, Patrick, you've really done a great job of asking yourself, like, what do I need to feel comfortable to go to social gatherings, and know my exit points, and coming later and leaving earlier, and fresh air. I'm so happy you talked about that. I think it's one of the most undervalued ways of wellness, like getting out and just being in nature, no matter what it is. Even if it's in a city, just like looking at a tree, looking at the sky. I have found that practice, just looking at the sky will clear your mind instantly. So if you find your mind just going wild, sometimes just looking up, it makes a huge difference. And especially being in Buffalo in the winter now, like, this is a hard time. You really do need to make extra efforts, I'm sure, to get out there even when it's cold or dark or early mornings. You mentioned a dog. So I imagine that it takes more practice to do it in the winter time. I would just like to see if anybody has any question for Patrick. You can raise your hand electronically in the bottom right-hand corner. You can also type anything into the chat for me if you have a specific question for Patrick around his practices, how he has gotten help in the recovery in the AA program, or how to work with a loved one, or any question that might come up. Now would be your time to ask. Patrick was also kind enough to let me know that if you don't feel comfortable asking a question here, when I send out the recap of today and share their information, he's willing to share his email. So you could always email him privately and ask any questions that you have that way as well. So I'm just going to give a little moment of silence and see if any questions come up, and otherwise we can move forward. Patrick, is there anything that you wanted to share too, based on what I just shared, before we jump into any question?
I just would like to reiterate that if anybody has any questions, to feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions as truthfully as I can.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
Could I say something?
Yeah, Helene, go on.
Just want to say how much I enjoyed your story, Patrick, and it's really incredible because there were so many parts in it that I could relate to. I've been to some of those dark places myself, and feeling like you're just not good at life. Like when you said that, I was like, oh, I've been there where I've just felt like I'm not good at life, and not feeling worthy, not feeling worthy of having the most amazing life that you can, not feeling worthy of being loved, and so many beautiful points that you touched that I think we can all relate to. We've all been there. We've gone, and exactly like when the mind can just convince us, of anything really. So just wanted to share how much I appreciated your story, and yeah, it definitely touched me as well.
Thank you, Helene. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Helene. So thanks, Patrick. I'm going to share your email with everybody with your permission. And
Yes,
if anybody, again, don't be shy. Patrick is really open to questions. I know he loves to serve in any way that he can. So once you get the email recap of tonight, then his email will be in there, and then you can take it upon yourself privately if you feel called to, or maybe even share it if Patrick's comfortable. If you think somebody may need somebody to connect with, maybe you can even share their email with them.
Yes, please pay it forward.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank
Indeed.
you. Thank you. So I just want to take just a few breaths to, kind of pause for a second. We just heard a lot. We heard some intense things and a very vulnerable share. So if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes and just take 3 deep belly breaths, like really feel your belly. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can keep them open as well, but just want to give some gratitude for Patrick for coming and sharing his story. And if you're ready, if you had your eyes open or closed, you can open them. If you're open, then you can keep them open. And we're going to start with Helene. So I gave a little intro to Helene before. Helene is a yoga teacher, holistic lifestyle mentor, and women's health coach. And she is going to share today with us a heart-based meditation, and you do not need any meditation experience. And then we're going to have a writing prompt, but she can explain it much better than I. So I'm going to hand it over to Helene to give a little bit of an introduction and also what we're doing. And then we can go into it when she's ready.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for the intro. And hi, everyone. I'm so happy and honored to be here with all of you. And yeah, thank you for showing up. And please take a moment to appreciate yourselves also for showing up, because that is the hardest part, honestly. When I first started practicing yoga, just showing up on the mat, that was the most difficult thing to do. And then once I got on there, then, you know, I just took it easy and did what I could. And I'd like to say the same thing for today's practice. Just, I think we get a little intimidated by meditation and think it's something that we have to be really good at. And it's not the case at all. I've been meditating for several years and my mind is still just as crazy. It just helps me to see more what's going on in there. So giving these little moments for ourselves to just come inside, come within, and take that time to be with ourselves and to get to know ourselves more deeply. And it's a constant practice. It's a constant work. It's, you know, joy is something that is inherent in us, but it's also something we have to work for. We have to work at it every single day. And that is still true for me. And that is still true for everyone I know, even if they are, you know, at some level of like success or whatever it is, it's work. Every day we work towards our joy. Like just to say like what Patrick was saying, how, you know, he takes walks, you know, he has these practices that he is incorporating into his life daily to keep himself strong and healthy and mentally well. And so I just want to also reiterate that as well. So for today's practice, I'm going to be leading us in a short meditation. And again, just, you know, do the best that you can with it. It's really just about taking a few moments to be quiet and still and with yourself and with your heart. And then straight from the meditation, I'm going to bring us into a writing prompt. So I'm going to give us a writing prompt and then give you guys a few minutes just to write whatever flows and comes out. There's no right or wrong. This is literally just allowing your stream of consciousness, or, you know, whatever is alive for you in that moment, just to get it out through the pen and onto the paper. And afterwards, whoever wants to share is more than welcome. If you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's fine as well. This is really just for you. Maybe later you'd want to share it with your family or a close friend, or you just keep it for yourself. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So first, just find a comfortable position for you. So you can be sitting up with your legs crossed or with your legs stretched out. I have like a pillow behind me here, so no shame in that for some spine support. If you prefer to lie down, that's also totally okay. So lying down, sitting up, if you're sitting on a chair, I would ask that you come to the edge of the chair and allow your feet to firmly plant on the ground. So find whatever feels most comfortable for you. And then go ahead and softly close the eyes, again, if that's comfortable. If not, you may also leave them slightly open, maybe just halfway closed, so just slightly open. And from here, let's begin to take some nice deep breaths. So we're going to inhale through the nose. And as you inhale, imagine yourself filling up your lungs and chest like you were filling up a balloon. So deep, deep breath. Inhale all the air that you can. And then exhale through the mouth. Let that all go. So the point of this is just to allow ourselves to let go of any tension in the body and just come more into this present moment, come into our bodies and into this space. And so again, another nice long inhale through the nose. As long and deep as you can, no pressure, just whatever feels true for you in this moment. Inhale. And hold that breath for just a couple seconds and exhale fully. And as you exhale, really feel this sensation like you're deflating. So you're deflating that balloon and grounding down through the hips, through your sit bones. And so we'll do that again with the inhale. And feel this feeling of expansion as you inhale. this opening. And then exhaling and fully letting go, releasing, grounding, contracting. Now, this time as we inhale, I'd love for you to imagine like there were wings being spread out from your back. So see your wings as you inhale. They can be any color, any shape, any kind of wing you'd like. Just see these beautiful wings spreading out from the back as you inhale. This feeling of opening and expansion. And then when that starts to feel a little much, go ahead and exhale and close your wings back up. Contract, ground. You can go back into your shell. It's safe. So this is really the dance of life, right? There are times when we are so open and we feel like, okay, we can show ourselves. And then there are other times where we want to contract and come back into our shells. And sometimes we need to stay in our shells a little longer. So stay with that exhale, stay with those wings closed a little longer if that's what you need. Beautiful. So do this on your own for the next 3 breaths. Inhale and imagine those beautiful wings growing, the lungs and chest filled with air. And then exhale. And imagine closing your wings back up, contracting, going back in. Beautiful. We'll do that one more time. So one last full inhale. And then see if you can exhale for just a little bit longer on this last exhale. Really stay in that contraction phase. And then when you're ready, breathe normally. And notice now how the breath moves. Notice if your heart is beating fast or slow. And so as you turn your senses more and more inward, notice how your heart is feeling now. How did it feel to expand for those few breaths? And then how did it feel to contract and go back in? Where did you feel most comfortable? Or perhaps it was the same. And so continue to take your inner gaze towards the heart. So looking deeply into the heart space. Noticing how it is feeling today. Does it feel nervous, excited, curious, open, closed, broken? Whatever is alive for you right now is completely accepted and okay. And what we're truly learning in meditation is to be with that. Not to change anything or judge anything. Just being with exactly what is right now. That's it. So notice now if there's any tension in the body. Relax the shoulders a bit. Relax the fingers, the eyelids, the jaw, the forehead. See if you can soften a little bit more. Softening by allowing what is. So continuing to look into the heart space. Notice what color your heart is today. What color is it? Could be red. Could be pink. Could be black. Notice the size of the heart and the shape of it. Is it a wider heart? Smaller heart? Is it beating out of your chest? Continuing to breathe naturally. Now, I'd love for you to envision your favorite color and imagine your heart being this color. It could be any color. And if your heart is closed, imagining it slowly being cracked open. See yourself just gently knocking on your heart. Very gently. And imagine it slowly blossoming. What does that feel like to blossom? It's okay if it's uncomfortable. And it's okay if you don't want to go there. Stay with the breath. So on this next inhale, I'd love for us to all stretch our arms up. So inhale, stretch the arms up towards the sky so the palms are facing towards one another. And then just gently join the palms together in like a prayer position. And then exhale, bring that prayer down in front of the heart space. And take a moment here to practice gratitude. Being grateful for this heart, this beating heart that lives in our chest, keeping us here and alive and healthy. And gratitude for yourself for being here, showing up to do the work. And if there's anything else you wish to give thanks to, anything or anyone, you may silently do that here now. And if you're uncomfortable with prayer, that's okay too. Just allowing yourself to be with yourself. That's all we're doing. And let's take a nice deep inhale through the nose. And then exhale through the mouth. Let out a sigh. You can release the hands. Put them down on your knees. And if the eyes were closed, very gently and slowly begin to open them. Flutter the eyes open. So from this space, we'll dive right into the first writing prompt. What are you denying of yourself? And we'll have 3 minutes for this prompt. Just write whatever comes fresh. What are you denying of yourself? And begin. And we got 1 more minute. Last 30 seconds. Go ahead and finish up your last thought. Okay. Oop. All right, pencils down. And so just take a moment with that, with whatever you wrote down. Maybe take a little cleansing breath, just a nice soft and easy inhale and exhale. And we'll get right into the next one, another 3 minutes. What and begin.
Can you repeat that, Helene? I think the music cut you out.
what do you suppress? So what are you suppressing?
Thank you. I'm going to write them in the chat for everybody as well.
Okay. And you guys can go ahead and begin. Last minute. Thirty seconds. Finishing up your last thought. Okay. So let that sink in for a moment, being with whatever came out. And taking another cleansing breath. So inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And we'll go into the third and final one. What is most alive in you in this moment? What is most alive in you in this moment? And begin. last minute. Thirty seconds. Finishing up any last thoughts. Okay, put our pencils down. And taking a moment to be with that, closing the eyes if that feels good, and taking another breath here. Inhale, exhale, and then stretching the arms up just to kind of unwind the body a little bit. The palms can reach in prayer, or maybe grabbing one wrist with the opposite hand, just stretching it out. And exhale. Beautiful. So I love writing because it's really like our truth coming out. And I find personally a lot of times things that I write, I can't even say, like I can't speak what I write, and I see what I've written and I'm like, wow, it's such a mirror to see what is really going on within us. And it's a beautiful practice that you can do at any time, and whenever you're feeling inspired or you just feel like you need to vomit, you can get out a pen and paper and write. So I hope the practice was insightful for you. And if anyone wants to share anything at all, I would love to hear. There are, of course, no judgments here at all. And if not, that's totally okay as well. Or if anyone has any questions or anything like that.
Thank you so much, Helene. That was a great practice, and I love the accessibility of just writing. Like you said, it's amazing what comes out. I recently started in 2021 something called Morning Pages, which is just writing 3 pages first thing in the morning, and it's amazing what comes out on that piece of paper. And I've noticed a huge weight comes off. I don't know if you've experienced the same. Like once I write it on the paper, it just seems to kind of go out of my mind in a great way, like it's offloaded, and I sleep better. I notice when I don't do the morning pages, I have more anxiousness in the night. So yeah, I don't know if you've experienced that in your own practice, this weight.
Absolutely, like this heaviness, this weight coming off my shoulders. And it's actually, yeah, morning is such a powerful time to do it before we've done anything, before we've checked our phones, before anything, because that's when we're the most ripe, and there's just nothing has come and has intruded into our consciousness and into our space yet. So we're really like pure newborns when we first wake up. And that's the beautiful thing to remember. We often, if we can wake up and just for a second tap into that space of like, okay, it's a new day, and there is like this small window where you feel like a newborn baby, because it's a brand new day. You have a whole slate that you get to create, right? And then of course when everything starts, it's like you look at the time, I'm late, I have to get up, I have to get ready, blah 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 blah. But if we can just give ourselves like those few seconds when we first open our eyes, just to look around and be like, I'm alive, it's a new day. And that's such a powerful time to just get your pen and paper and start writing and see what comes through for you. So Yeah, and again, no judgments of what comes out. It can really
Yeah.
be anything. It could be anything, and I've had the craziest things come out, and I'm like, I will never share this with anyone. And it's not really supposed to be for sharing. It doesn't have to be for sharing. It's for you. It's for you first and foremost. So remembering that. So maybe keep your diary somewhere. No one's gonna find it. Your journal.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I love it. I love the imagination of a newborn baby. That's a great visual to have. I have some things I could share, but I would prefer we have a few minutes left just to hear if anybody else has anything that they do want to share. Anything that came up, anything that was uncomfortable, anything that was comfortable, anything that was surprising. If anybody wants to share, you can raise your hand electronically down at the bottom under reactions, raise hand. And maybe I'll just give it a minute just to see if anybody wants to share anything. Sure, go ahead, Patrick.
I'll let you roll the dice if that's fun, and whichever question you would like to hear my answer to.
what do you deny of yourself?
Oh, okay. This was unexpected because I don't often dabble with this, but stream of consciousness, right from your guidance, I am denying my perfection. It seems like too much pressure to be perfect, but I'm already perfect in the eyes of the universe. I need to work on accepting this view of myself and use it for shining light on suffering. Through acceptance of self, I become more in line with the Creator's view of me.
That's beautiful. I
Well,
love
thank
that.
you
You
for
see
guiding me
me?
there. I would have gotten there
I
on my
love
own.
it. I just love what comes out through writing. That's so powerful. Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Helene, we have one question in the chat. I had a very hard time being able to write something. Does it become easier?
That's completely normal. And thank you for asking that question. I did want to actually go over that. It does become easier. It can be hard at first because we're not used to really allowing ourselves to go there, right? And we'll find some way to escape when something uncomfortable is coming up. Normally, whatever it is, it can be a numbing agent, or it can just be the TV, or whatever it is. So it's completely normal, and that's totally okay. I would say just keep practicing, like just keep trying. Like whenever, the minute you feel like you have a spark of some kind of inspiration, or something feels like it wants to come through, go grab that pen and paper and start writing. But yeah, that's totally normal, and it definitely gets easier as we become more comfortable just being really with ourselves and whatever's coming up for us.
Thanks, Helene. Yeah, I will say from experience with my morning pages, I remember the first time I decided to start and I was like, I can't write 3 pages every day. What the heck am I going to write about? And the first week was really hard. Like I was like, this is garbage. What am I writing? And I realized I was just in my mind about it, like thinking I needed to write something profound. And let me tell you, the days after that were not profound at all, but very eye-opening to what was actually going on in my mind. But it did take some work, as Helene was saying. Like I really needed to just show up. And I want to remind everybody, like we talked about in the beginning, just flexing that muscle of showing up is enough. Like just show up, even if it's 10 minutes a day for yourself. And whether it's writing a prompt or trying a meditation, there's millions of meditations out there these days. Apps and things you can use, like just showing up and saying, I'm going to show up for 10 minutes a day and just have a little bit of me time and get comfortable with yourself. Like that's a huge part of what a call to heal is this getting comfortable with being with yourself. We're not taught that. That's not anything we ever learn which is just crazy when you think about it, right? We're not taught how to be with ourselves, to be with our mind, be with our emotions. So I just encourage everybody to commit to like 10 minutes this week, 5 minutes if it feels too much, 5 minutes every day. And whatever it is you feel called to do, that's for yourself. And that isn't, iPhone or anything like that. It's really something, a self-care practice that is getting to know yourself, getting to know your mind, even if it's just sitting in silence with your eyes closed, even if it's sitting in silence with your eyes open. Just do something like that. I want to honor everybody's time. I asked you to honor being here for the full time, so I also want to respect everybody else's time. If you do have a question, raise your hand while I'm kind of closing out. I definitely want to make sure that we answer any questions that are lingering for anybody. And just want to thank you, Helene, for sharing that beautiful practice. I had some great insights come up as well, and some uncomfortableness and things that I need to be more open to. My wings were very shy trying to spread, so it was really great to practice that. And I just want to let everybody know, because I had Patrick's permission and Helene's permission to record this and share this. I think I am going to share it, for other people to kind of just see what this is about and get comfortable with this concept. So you'll have an opportunity to rewatch this. So go back and listen to Patrick's story and, see where you can connect any dots in your own life. And again, that invitation I gave you around looking at your own normals, your own autopilot behaviors that maybe you can take a look at, like Patrick has, to transform any areas that need some work. And be gentle with yourself, by the way. Don't start bringing judgment on yourself about all these things you need to change. One thing that came up during Helene's practice is the word respect. When you said what's most alive, Helene, respect for this journey, the respect that, it's work and it's beautiful and it takes practice. And the more you practice, the easier it does get to show up more for yourself. So respect was one of the words. I will let you guys know I am changing the way the events are going to be for sign up. I'm going to start each event has its own sign up form. So I know in the past, if you're on the email list, you automatically are going to get the info. So keep an eye out for that. There's going to be a new system. You need to sign up in the form. The next event is going to be on December 29th. We have 2 guests lined up for that, so I'm really, really excited. Again, we're going to have a story inspiration, as well as somebody guiding us through a practice. So I really encourage you guys to spread this around. Please share it. Everybody that comes to share their time is volunteering their own time and preparation work, and so it's a beautiful thing to share it with other people, and especially people that may need a space like this, and reminding them that they can be anonymous and their video can be off, so they can feel as safe as they can. And I think that's really it. I just want to thank everybody for showing up, and keep an eye out for your email. I'm going to share the links of Patrick's email and some of his information and website, and as well as Helene's information and website. So if you want to get in touch with either of them, you'll have ways to do that. And the rewatch link will be sent to you guys most likely by tomorrow, end of the day. So just want to thank everybody. Thanks, Helene. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, Patrick. Thank you.